hopefully I am now live on both YouTube and Facebook, although it doesn't say that, which is always a bit worrying. Meh, who knows? And for some reason, I've got a new button up there. I've no idea what that's about. Oh, heavens, goodness me. No idea what that's about. Anyway, I shall ignore it and hopefully it'll all go away. I don't like it when something comes up across the picture because I don't know if I'm supposed to do anything, but I don't think I am. So welcome everyone to my Craft with Carol Live, which is every Tuesday at this time, 2 o'clock. And it's lovely to see people. I'd love you, if you are watching, to pop your name in the chat so I know who's there. And feel free to comment in the chat. I have got it up. I will see the chats, not always at the best times, because sometimes it takes a while for the little pixies to run to wherever they have to run to deliver the message. But yeah, it'll be fine. So let me, without further ado, what am I going to talk about today? Well, I am actually not going to make a card, but I'm going to show you 10 techniques with Stampin' Write markers. And there's a reason for that. Let me just put my desk rather than you watching my face, see my desk. And the reason I'm talking about the markers is because we are halfway through well, we're over halfway through Celebration. We're 3/4 of the way through Celebration, halfway through February. So there are only 2 more weeks to make the most of the fabulous joining offer this week and next week. And it really is good. And you can find the offer at the end of the Celebration brochure. And this is it. Basically, the normal offer for joining at any time of year is that you can get, which is brilliant, because you can get £130 worth of products for people who work in sterling. I can't remember what it is in, hang on, work it out. €175, yeah, it's down in the book here. I could have just read it. So £130 for UK, €175 for Ireland and the rest of Europe. And you get for £130 worth or €175 worth of products, but you only pay £99 or €129. So you're getting a lot of stuff at really bargain prices, and you can really make the most of that to bring into your joining offer. And you can have anything. You can have anything from the current catalogues, from the online exclusives, anything that is currently for sale, you can add to your joining offer. But during Celebration, there's always something extra. And I wanted to focus today on option 1 from Celebration. Hello, Emmylou, lovely to see you. I thought you might be at work, but you're not. So I'm so glad you can join me. So I wanted to talk about option 1 from Celebration, because here you not only get your £130 of the products for just £99, but you also get for free this stamp set. You can see it there. It's called Handmade Designs, and it's got some lovely images and sentiments. And not only that, 2 free packs of Stampin' Write markers, which is an incredible offer, because normally they're £35 for a pack. So that is an amazing offer to get these markers as free with Celebration. So I really wanted to emphasize, and I probably haven't done enough of that, to say, just do it. It's a sensible time. You never have to buy anything else. Hello, Suzanne. Nice to see you as well. Hi. Lovely that you can join me. Yeah, when you join Stampin' Up, you never have to buy anything else if you don't want to. You can, of course, because then you'll get things with a discount, which is always good, with a 20% discount. So it is worthwhile being a demonstrator. You do get a lot of stuff at a bargain price. But this offer, I just think, is fantastic. So there are 4 different Stampin' Write sets, 1 for each of the colour families. So you've got the neutral set, which is all the neutral colours, the Regals collection, the Regal colours, the bright colours, and the subtles collection. So and you get 2 of those. Are the markers brushed up? I am going to show you in just a minute, so don't panic. I'm going to show you all about the markers and give you 10 different techniques to use with them, because I think these are a bit of a secret in the catalogues, because they cover all of the sets. All mine are half open, these packs. They're going to all fall out in a minute, but I'll just try and tuck that back in. Ugh. whatever, I'll sort it out in a bit. The beauty of it is, if you haven't, perhaps you haven't got all of the ink pads. Over the years, I've now collected all the ink pads, that's fine. But when you're starting off in particular, think about getting a marker pack instead of all the ink pads. And so you can try out all the different colours and decide if you want all the ink pads or just a few or whatever, because they're the whole colour families. And you can use them in many of the same ways as you use ink pads. So which lot? So I've got Brights in my hand, so we'll use Brights for today. I'll just put the others to one side. I might need some of them later. So you get all of these. This one, of course, isn't open, so I've now got to fight with it to open it. You can use all of the colours together or separate or whatever. So here are all the Brights colours. I'm going to get them all out so you can see them all, every single colour. And each of the pens, and this will answer your question, Emily, each of the pens, so it says Stampin' Write marker, it has the colour on it. So this is, oops, hold it up, so Stampin' Write Melon Mambo. So this is Melon Mambo. It's got it in all the languages, so you always know which one it is. And yes, there are two ends. There is a thin end, which is a pointy tipped end. You can see that against my hand, just like a writing tip, and you can do a lot with this particular end. I shall be showing you. The other end is the brush tip end. So you have the brush tip for colouring or for doing bigger splodges of colour or whatever. One left in the box, was there? Did I manage to? I did. Thank you very much, Emily. There we go. There's the final one. That's right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There should be 10 in every pack, and there are now. So these are my Brights. As I said, they come in all of the colour families. Thanks for telling me. I'm very good at things like that. And then I think, where is it? I've lost it. So let me go through how to use them. Now, the big difference between the Stampin' Write markers and the blends are that the Stampin' Write markers are water soluble. The blends are alcohol-based markers. So these are water soluble. So there's one key tip to use when you want to colour an image, because you can colour in just the same way as you can with blends. I actually think the Stampin' Write markers are more versatile than blends, and you'll see why as I go through all of these suggestions. I've just got here, this is from Umbrella Days, because I've just done a card with that, so I had it on the desk. So when I've got loads of bits of card here because I want to use all sorts of bits to show you for colouring. So when you're stamping your outline image that you want to colour, this is the first technique, colouring, you don't want to use Memento. And the reason for that is Memento is also a water-based ink. So that if you want to use some of these other techniques I'm going to show you with water or using the blender pen, sometimes a bit of the Memento will leak into the colour. So you'll get a little bit of a sort of dark, splodgy bit at the edge of a colour, or the colour turns slightly dark because it picks up the Memento. So best to use StazOn. And for some reason, I cannot find my black StazOn. So I've got this one, which is the stone grey. Doesn't really matter. But the StazOn is important. There is a separate StazOn cleaner, by the way. Can't get into my ink pad. There we go. Do clean it with the special cleaner. It's a spray cleaner. Mine's over there somewhere. Anyway, don't worry about that. So I'm going to stamp up my image and hope this pad is not dry. I don't use StazOn that much. And as I say, I can't find my black StazOn. Might have to buy a new one. Don't know where it is. Anyway, there we go. Inking up the image and then stamp it as normal. So we'll have our little person stamped here. There we go. So it's in grey, so it's not that black because this is a grey pad, not a black one. I'm going to leave it there because I might need it. And because this is StazOn, it's a fast-drying solvent ink, it doesn't pick up colour. You don't need to worry about the pens picking up colour. So I'm going to show you just colouring. So I'm going to use, I don't know what colour to do. Should we have a nice red raincoat? So I've got Poppy Parade. So I'm going to use the brush end just to colour in the raincoat. So it colours very similar to stamping blends. You haven't got the two, you've got the light and the dark in stamping ends to do the blending. But to be honest, you don't need to worry about that. And I'm just going to colour like this and then show you. So just colouring, really simple. I'm going to show you a technique with this, which is why I'm not going to colour in the whole lot. Perhaps I want the pocket to be a little bit lighter. I can do that because I can get an aqua painter and I can pick up some of the colour. And the easy way to pick up colour with these pens is you simply scribble some of the colour on the block. You know, with your ink pads, you have to sort of squeeze the lid and it doesn't always work terribly well. But I can pick it up with my water painter from the block, and then I can get a lighter colour. So I don't know if you can see that. Hold it up a bit more. So I've got a lighter colour there over the pocket. And if I want it to be darker, perhaps under the arm, I can pick up a bit more colour and just add a bit more. Or I can use my pen to add a bit more. And this is just the ordinary basic white cardstock. So you can see how you can get, your Stays On ink pad smells like almond. Do you know what? So does mine. I was trying to think what the smell was. You're quite right. It is like almond. They are very juicy pens, and they don't bleed through nearly as much. Look at that. There you go. That's the back of the card. They don't bleed through. The alcohol markers do. So if you're colouring on an actual front of a card, I find it really difficult to use the blends. That's why I'd always use a layer, because it doesn't matter if it goes through then, because it's hidden behind the layer before you stick it on the card. So if you're just doing a very simple card, perhaps this is a card and I've just stamped on the front of it, then the Stampin' Write markers are much better. So even with the water bit, where I was putting water on, you can just see a slight dampness where I was using the water, but that'll of course dry. But the colour doesn't come through, so they don't bleed through, which is one of the brilliant things about them. And I'm just going to grab a very scruffy bit of paper, but cleaning aqua painters, you just scribble it on a spare bit of paper or tissue, whatever you have, till it runs clear, and then it's ready for the next colour. Put that out of the way. You don't need to see my very, very horrible things there. So several techniques. I'm going to do Welly's yellow. So just colouring. So I can just use the tip. And for small areas, these are brilliant because the pencil nib is actually really, really fine. And you can get into all the sort of knobbly bits on pictures. I'm not doing this brilliantly, but you get the idea. There. And we'll have some jeans. We'll use Pool Party. Oh, Coastal Cabana it is. That'll do for the jeans. So I'll just colour those in as well. So they're lovely juicy pens. They give a really good depth of colour, which I really like, without bleeding through, which I think is brilliant. So there we have our little person coloured there. With the pocket. Now, if I didn't like that light pocket, I can go over it with the pen and just colour it in a bit more. Life. You can do whatever you want with these. They're brilliant. I think pink. No, I'm going to use pink on the hands. I would probably get a blend or not bother with the hands. Or actually, what I can do for the hands, why don't I do the same thing as before? So I'll scribble some pink on my block. Pick it up, just a bit of it, with the alcohol, with the aqua painter, the water painter, and then I can have very light pink hands, which are perfect. There we go. I don't know if you can see the pink, but it is pink. You have Tombos, which have the same nibs. They're not as juicy. I did have the whole set of Tombos. I have to say I've given them away because they're not nearly as good as the Stampin' Write markers. I think these came out before the blends, and I must admit, they're still my go-to things. They are so good. The Tombow pen, they're nice, the Tombow pens, but I found they were only really good when they were new because they dried out a lot. Oh, the other beauty of these, before I forget to tell you, is they are refillable. Now, I actually haven't had one dry out. That sounds ridiculous, but I haven't had one of these dry out as long as I store them horizontally. That's the big thing with these pens. You absolutely have to store them horizontally. And the reason is that if you store them like that, because the barrel bit is full of ink, then if you store them upright, the ink all flows to one end. So if you want to use the other end, you'll find it's dried out. So you always store these horizontally. So I keep them in their boxes and they sit on my shelf like that, nice and flat. So flat on my shelf. And then I'm not risking them running out. But if they did run out, there isn't a problem, because what you can do, and I'm not going to pull it out because I'll get mess everywhere. And I've got a bit of a tissue here. I'll show you what you do, and then you can see. If it dries out, so pretend this one's dried out, it hasn't, but in case it had, then all you do is take off the brush end, and you can do it with your fingers if you want. I can't find my tweezers, so I'll have to do it with my fingers. No, I don't want to do it with my fingers. Where's my tweezers? There's another pair in here, so let me just, oops, get them out. Come here. There. Just grab hold of the actual brush bit and pull, and it will actually come out. Might have to hold it with my, there we go. Grab hold of it tight, it will pull out, and then you can just drop ink using your ink refill into the barrel, and then you just slide this back in again. Ooh. Without dropping it. I'm going to drop this everywhere and get it everywhere, aren't I? But you get the idea. But that is, they are, I'm going to have to use my fingers. It's the only way. It is. I've got yellow on my fingers, but it does work. I was trying to do it so I stayed clean then. Not like me, as you know. So yeah, there we go. So they are refillable, which I love. So I can use these forever. I have to say, I am forever buying new blends because my blends run out. And it's, although some people say you can refill the blends, I've never been successful with it, just being honest. But these, absolutely. But I've never had them run out anyway. So, up to you. But this is one of the reasons I think they are better in many ways than the blends. Blends are still useful. The light and the dark is really good for getting shading. But as I said, you can with the pen and with an aqua painter, or my third technique, which is a blender pen, which I'm going to use for the umbrella here. So we'll have a berry burst umbrella. Why not? We're going very colourful. Or should we just have a yellow umbrella? No, because it won't show as much as I want to for this. We'll use berry burst. So again, I'm just going to scribble on a block. Or if you wanted, by the way, if you've got a glass mat, you can do it direct on the glass mat. My trouble is if I do that, I forget that I've done it and then lean in it or wipe a card through it or something stupid. And this time I'm going to use the blender pen. Now there are two ways to use the blender pens. Again, available from Stampin' Up. All the details will be in the blog later on. The Stampin' Blend's different to the Stampin' Write. Stampin' Write markers. Yes, sorry, you've just joined Art-A-Rye. Let me explain. Right. So sorry, folks, if I'm going over the bits you've already heard, but it's important to say these are very different than the blends. The blends come in pairs, and you've got a light and a dark. They are the same in that they both have a writing end and a brush end, but these are water-based and the blends are alcohol-based, so they are very different. So that's the biggest difference. And I can't say I prefer one or the other because they're both good for their own ways. And one of the ways people have said, yes, but you can't do shading with Stampin' Write markers. And it's true, if you're just using the marker to colour in, you can't do shading. It doesn't work. However, there are ways to do it. And one of those is using the blender pen. Now, the blender pen is, I'm not quite sure what it's got in it. I'm not sure. No, does it say on it? I don't know. God knows what it's got in it. Something that allows you to blend colour. So what you can do with the blender pen, if you pick up the colour again from the block, then you can colour in just using the pen, and it smears the colour around. But obviously, as you use the colour, it gets lighter and lighter. And I can just add bits, leave bits dark. I'm not going to do the whole brolly because it's ridiculous. And this is just on the basic white paper. It's even better on watercolour paper, as I'll show you in a bit. But you can get the idea. So I can get the idea of shading from using the blender pen and just letting it sort of squiggle down. Because if you pick up the colour with the blender pen, then it gradually uses all the colour. So you can get that sort of gradient effect from using the pen. Another way to use it, if you just want a little bit perhaps of quite intense colour, is you can actually just swipe the blender pen up the tip of here, and you'll see that then gives me an even darker colour. Yeah. So I can have a much darker colour there. And then again, if I just keep using the blender pen, it gets lighter and lighter. So you get the idea. So it's really good. It's not so good for a brolly, to be honest, but oops. But it's brilliant for things like flowers and petals where you want to get that. So that is another really useful way to do it. So those are sort of colouring ways, colouring them directly, colouring them using the ink on the block and the blender pen, like I've just done here. Better finish that bit of that bit of brolly here, hadn't I? Because just to fill that bit in, there we go. So it'll make it look, as I said, it really just brings in the inks. I've not done that brilliantly, but you can get the idea that you can use it for shading and for just making it look very different. So if you really want a dark colour, you don't want to use the pen direct, you can pick it up off the tip using the blender pen, or pick it up off the block and do the same thing. The aqua painter with the block, if I do the other half of the brolly with the aqua painter, you'll see the difference. So it picks up painting better. It's not moving it around the paper because this isn't watercolour paper. If you really want to do this, watercolour paper is by far the best way. But you can see the difference. So you get a much better coverage, if you like, with the, just get my thing again to get that colour off there. There we go. So I don't know if you can tell too much of the difference between the sides, but one's using the blender pen, the other one's using the watercolour. So really good. Can you mix two colours? Yes, you can mix two colours. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute as well. Let me just clean that block before I try and put other colours on top of existing colours. It's not a good idea. So just clean the block there. There we go. So I haven't obviously used the same colours, but this is a card which is actually I'm showing in the blog on, it'll come out on Thursday evening, Friday. And that was coloured, those pictures were coloured using the blends. So we've got the slight light and dark with a little bit of colouring, which is what I usually would do. So I've got the feeling of light shining on one half. Same with the dog, I've done him that way. That is the difference when I use the Stampin' Write markers. So don't look at the brolly too much. I should have taken more care over it, but you get the idea. Same with cleaning the blender pen. You just scribble it on some scrap paper until it's absolutely clear. And I've lost the top. That's very clever. Oh, there it is. And as I said, you can, yeah, there's two ends to it. They're both the same, but it means there's plenty of blending you can do with those. So let me show you how I would do the dog, for example. So get my stays on again. It always puts its cover back on itself so that I get ink on my fingers every time. I think it's to keep it dry so it doesn't evaporate or whatever. So we'll have our dog sitting there next to our person. Just going to wipe the stamps because I haven't got my stays on cleaner out. So if I wipe it quickly, this one's dried, so those stays on will stain your stamps if you don't clean them quite quickly. Although it's stone grey, you can't really see that one anyway. So here's my dog. Let me use the neutrals and get a couple of browns. I told you I'd be going into all of these. So I'll get, I'll get my favourite crumb cake and we'll mix it with Sahara sand, I think. Or should we mix it with pecan pie? Oh, who knows? Let's try those, see what they look like. So if I'm going to do my dog, for example, he might have a red collar. So I can just use my Poppy Parade to put the red collar in. And then if I want to do the rest of the dog, I don't really want to colour him all of these colours. But what I can do, I want some shading. So what I can do is I could colour the dog with my crumb cake, for example. It's going to show quite dark on here, but that's okay. Lightens it does lighten a bit when it dries, as you can see from the bit I've already done. I think if you're colouring big areas, the blends move the colour better. So you can get brush marks when you're using the Stampin' Write markers if you're not careful. Don't know why I'm using the brush end to do this bit. I should go to the other tip end to do these narrow bits, but I just want to colour him in for now so you can see that. And I could have done that with exactly the same way as I've done the others. But what I'm going to do to give myself a little bit of colour on that, again, I'm going to put my colour on the block. Oh, I'm dropping everything today, on my glass mat. And then I'm just going to pick it up with my blender brush. And then I'm just going to colour in the bits that have got a little bit of shadow. So just very quickly, you can see, I hope that's fairly clear. You can see that the dog then, probably, yes, you'll see that one on Friday. Ignore that. Focus on the Stampin' Write markers. So here I can still get my shading just by using, can you see it around the ear and the back legs and things? Hopefully you can see that. That's done really quickly. I could take better time and do it. But the blender pen is, I think, an essential. If you're going to get it, get the blender pen within your product, so you've got it when your new free Stampin' Write markers arrive. So those are various colouring techniques, but that is not all. You can do so much more. Let me just get rid of some of those and let me get I'll get this block actually. Take my little doggy off, go and sit by the person for a moment. So one other thing you can do with it, and this is quite a nice technique, I'm just going to move that to one side. And I'm going to get a little bit of watercolour paper because this is a messy technique. I'm actually going to put this on something, because otherwise everything is going to get wet with this technique. But, so say I wanted to do some sort of coloured background, okay? Just on my card front. It's not really a card front, but you get the idea. I've got a smaller block actually as well. Let me just reach over and find a smaller block too. There we go. That might be better for the size of piece I've got here. There, that's probably better than the big one. So another thing you can do is, again, colour your block. So I'm just going to colour the whole block and use that as a you can do it as a tile effect on a background or just an area on a background. And if you just stamp it down, you'll actually get some colour. Just breathe on it because I was talking and not just getting on. So actually that doesn't work so well. Let me get I'm going to get a narrow piece. This one works best on an ordinary. I'll show you in a minute. This one works best on just the ordinary basic white paper. So you're colouring the block. And then we're just going to stamp it. So we've got a nice sort of variegated pattern. And if you then did that in different colours, you could make yourself rather a nice background. So I'll perhaps do this. So easy to clean because they're water soluble. I can just clean the colour off the block very quickly so I can put a new colour on. Whenever you're stamping with colour, it's worth huffing to make sure you've activated the ink and it's nice and inky, I suppose, is the best one. And oh, I don't know, let's have Granny Apple Green next to that. I'm not lining these up very well, but this would make a nice sort of background for a card or a strip across a card. So there's a green one as well. There we go. So I've just turned the block there. So I've coloured across and I've turned the block. So one looks as though these colours are down, those are across. You get the idea. So another nice way to get a bit of a background, and that actually, you could put that across the middle of a card with a sentiment across the top. Just something different, which is quite nice. But what I wanted to show you is when you add water to that. So I'll go over where I've just stamped that by mistake because I forgot this was the next one I was going to show. So what I do is get my water spritzer, which is why it's slightly messy, this technique. I'm going to spray it off my desk so I'm not covering everything with water. So just a little spritz, and then I can put that on the watercolour paper. And it should come out. It's because I've just done it like that. Anyway, there we go. I can use my watercolour painter. That's because I've done it on top of where I was. But then I can just move the colour around because it's watercolour paper. Oh, I like that effect, actually. You get the idea. So for a lovely background, just for, I don't know, some stamp you want to put on the top, you can do that on a very large block. If I do it on the bigger block, you can get the idea. Just use yellow again as I've got the top off that. And of course, it does your blocks absolutely no harm at all to be coloured over with these markers because they're water-based, so they just wipe clean. So again, I'll spritz it. And then pop it on the paper. You can do this on the ordinary basic white paper as well, using the spritzing thing. That splashed as I took it off, but you get the idea. So again, I can let that run around, put a bit more colour on it. There we go. So just let that dry. So you can do ombre on the book. Absolutely you can. You're ahead of me, Emma-Lou, because I'm going to show you all these things. Because my next thing was going to be, of course, you don't have to do one colour. So I could start, let's just dry that on my t-shirt, why not? So I can do ombre, so I can have, well, I don't know, yellow at the top. And then I can have, say, orange. Pumpkin pie. So just doing it in strips down. And then I might go into a blue perhaps. So we'll have some pool party. And then you can have such fun with markers. I tell you honestly, I can play for hours with the markers. I can't believe the value of the wonderful free thing at the moment. Right, so now I can give that a spritz. Ooh, just spritz the air in the middle of my room. Have I got another piece of... Ooh. All the colours are running together now while I'm standing messing about with this, but that's fine. Again, I've got little drops on there, but that's fine. So you can a bit see all the different colours in that. They have mixed together because I sprayed it and then faffed about, but you get the idea. So there's all sorts. I've made a right mess of that with that drop there. Ugh, never mind. Ugh. Too wet. Right. But you get the idea. So you can have a rainbow effect. You can do, oh, there's so much you can do. And if I show you that same thing on the ordinary basic white sheet, you'll see the difference. I don't know why I've just... Yeah, let me leave that there to dry. The only thing with this is you do need to then leave it to dry before you do anything else with it. So we do the same thing again. We'll just use all the colours again. And I'll show you the difference with, that's with sort of spritzing it so that all the colours sort of run together and you get little patches of the different colours. This one, let me use another blue at the bottom and then you might see a difference there. So the huff as before. Not brilliant, I didn't huff that enough, but you get the idea. If I colour in the colours, you'll see it a bit more. It actually goes better on the paper if you do the water. I'll probably do that actually. Let me just recolour it and then I'll use a spray of water on it. You'll see the difference. But you just want to play. I mean, there's so many effects you can get with these, and I haven't even started on some of the other things you can do. Let me hurry up because I'm going to run out of time. You'll all have to go and I won't have finished all my 10 techniques. I'm having too much fun colouring blocks. I think that's the trouble. Right, I'm going to try and get a slightly lighter mist on it by holding it further away this time. So I've stopped it running because I'm not holding it to allow the water to run. I can get it straight on there, so you can see that a bit better. Yeah. So that keeps them a bit more separate because I haven't got the watercolour paper and I haven't got too much water on it. Lots of water, the colours run together but produce an absolutely fabulous effect. I love the watercolour effect you get with the Stampin' Write markers. And if you do that and then spritz it with water on top, you get an even better effect because it all dapples and, oh, so many. What number technique were you up to? Actually, Emma-Lou, I've no idea because I'm losing track. Right, what was off my water painter? What have we done? Let me have a quick look at my list that I've got at the side. We've done colouring images. We've done the ink on the block and the blender pen and the watercolour with the aqua painter. and the block stamping with water background. So we've done 4. That's good. So let me get rid of that. Let me move on. There is so much more you can do. And one of those things is obviously you've got a lovely end to this. So which colour shall I use? Oh, I don't know. I'll go with this just for fun. So you can use the pencil end just for simply writing. So if you want to write on your cards, it's brilliant for journaling. So you can just simply write. You can write your sentiment on, you can write your greeting. So easy to do and so quick. Yeah, thank you, Emma. Still 6 to go. So this is the first, which is journaling, and I'm doing that together with another. So perhaps you've got a nice thing there. Perhaps you want a background around it in, oh, choose berry burst. No, I won't. I'll choose something different. What should we have? Green against mumbo. So we can use, whoops, that's the brush end. Talking about using the tip end now. So you can simply write with it. And you can, of course, do little lines, however you want around it. I'm not doing this very carefully, as you can see. So little decorative things around it, just like that. So it's great for journaling, adding little lines. I did a few weeks ago, months ago probably, I did some thank you cards showing the different types of little edges you can use, and I used my markers for that because it was a good way to do it. So that's another way to do it. Journaling, scribbling with your markers, that's great, but there's even more you can do with the other end of these. So if you use the brush end, and I'm not terribly good at this, but hopefully it'll work nicely. You can actually write with it because you can use thin bits and then thicker bits. And just use it for sort of brushstroke writing. Yeah. But that's not all, because there are other wonderful things you can do with that. So, for example, if I use, let me use the blue and the yellow just to show you. If you want to do a mixture of colours, if I put blue and yellow together, obviously they make green. So if I then try my brush technique and I use my yellow marker, if you're doing this, always use the lighter one to pick up the darker one, and just brush my tip so I'm picking up some of the blue. The yellow obviously won't affect the blue too much, but the blue will affect the yellow, and then write with it. So can you see how you get a sort of ombre effect and the colours mix together? So you can get some really interesting effects mixing the colours. But if you're picking up a darker colour, always use the lighter one to pick up the darker one. I wouldn't use the blue to pick up the yellow because it's likely to make it very difficult for me to clean the yellow tip. But once you've done it, if you just keep, again, use your scrap paper, you get back to your original colour. So the original colour for this one was that. It's daffodil yellow. And the original colour for my blue is that. There's a tiny bit of yellow on the top. You can see a bit of green in that first one. So let me do it over there so you can see it as a separate colour. Actually, let me just make sure it's completely clean of the yellow. There we go. So yeah, so you just want to clean the nibs just by scribbling, and the original colour comes through. So you can see that Write is using those two colours mixed together just by picking up the tips. So that is quite cool, ombre writing. And you can have great fun with that, mixing different colours and seeing what comes out. Obviously red and yellow, you get a sort of nice orangey effect. Should we try that one just to see? As I said, you can just play with this forever. It's such good fun. So now we get Using the colour again so I can pick up a bit more. So you can get the idea. So you can pick up whichever colours you want, and then you've got a whole range of even more colours. So just scribble to get back to the original colour, and your pens are great for next time. So ombre writing, there we go. The block or all, I know that, to be honest, if I'm using the block colouring technique, mixing all the colours together, that's my favourite. It's my favourite. Do it on watercolour paper so they really do run together properly and give it a really good spritz of water, not just a light spritz. Problem with basic white, if you use water on it, it does bend. You have to then squash it on something to flatten it. But you get the idea with the writing, which is just so fun. So that's another technique. What else have we got? Yeah, another thing would be perhaps I am, I don't know, let's have a look. If I was, where is my ordinary memento? There we go. Say I was doing a project. And I see I've done that. It's not quite what I meant to do. But say I had, there we go, made a mistake. If I'd made a mistake with my stamping. So I hadn't inked my block up properly. And I've got some gaps. No problem, because I can just get my basic black marker, says she, thinking, where is that one? Because it's obviously not in there. I have got it in. May have to use a different colour because I may not be able to find my basic black. I'll just use, because you'll get the idea. If I use the grey from here, you'll get the idea. So if I've done that, if I've stamped and I haven't got, oh no, I haven't made a mess, then I can just use my Stampin' Write markers to fill in the lines that I haven't stamped properly, like that. And then it looks great again. So filling in mistakes is another way to use these colours. Let's put that one away before I forget. What was the other one I got out? See, I'm getting them all mixed up now. I'll just put my dog ones away so I'm not getting the sets mixed up. There we go. That's the neutrals all together. So that's another way to do it. The final way to do it with just stamping, so outline stamps and filling in mistakes, is we can actually, the beauty of these, and you cannot do this with blends, doesn't work, but you can colour stamps with these. So, oops, just move my memento out of the way so I don't lean on it. So say I thought, oh, it's really boring. Of course, I could just stamp those and colour them in. That would give me a set of, I don't know what. But what I can do is, say I decided I wanted a little line of library books, and we might want the first one to be a red book. So we're just going to colour using the brush end. If you're putting colour on the stamps with these, do use the brush end of your pen. And then I might have it next to a blue book, which is next to a green book. Which is next to, who knows, an orange book, why not? I don't think I've ever seen an orange book cover, but hey, you get the idea. So I can use, if I want books of different colours, again, whenever you're stamping this way, then do huff to make sure you've reactivated the ink. And then I have my books of different colours. You see how that works? So it works. I should have got a flower stamp out because it's particularly good for flowers. If you've got an image which is a flower and a leaf, then obviously colouring these are just so much fun. So you can do so much, folks. But that's not all, because we can use that technique on words. So I've got here, I think it's from this one. I've got thinking of you. But obviously I could stamp that in some sort of coordinating colour and it would be all one colour. But perhaps I want words that are a different colour. Perhaps happy birthday in a different colour. Let's get that one out as well so you can see that one too. Hopefully that'll fit on here, just about. Yeah. So we can do exactly the same thing. So if I want thinking of you, I might want the thinking in blue. So I can just colour my thinking in blue. And it doesn't matter if it takes you a little while to colour everything, because the huffing reactivates the link. So don't worry if it's dried, because if you huff on it, it will reactivate the ink. So you don't need to panic too much about time when you're doing this, because you can always reactivate it by huffing. So that's very quickly covered the thinking. And then of you, I might want in, oh, I don't know, orange, just for sake of it. Again, you can just use whatever colours you want for these, but really simple. Of course, if you can do this if you wanted by masking off part of it and then stamping it in one colour and then masking off the other part and stamping it in another. But why not? Why not just do it with your pens? And I've done that really quickly, but you get the idea. Thinking of you. Yeah, it's quite a big stamp to do that with, and I've slightly messed it up. Plus, it's a new stamp. Little tip for a new stamp, and I'll just do it again and show you the difference. I always Versamark a new stamp before I use it. I shall do that with the happy birthday, because I've not used that either. It's fine me grabbing these new stamp sets, but I haven't actually used them yet. So if I do it with the happy birthday, another little scrap here. Let's have, so happy can be in my favourite berry burst. And birthday can be in, why not blue again? You'll see the difference because I've put the the Versamark on this stamp before I've used it. You should see the difference in the stamping. Even though I'm doing this really quickly, and I should probably spend a bit more time just making sure I have covered every bit of all the letters, but you get the idea. These are very big stamps to do it with, but you get that idea. So putting the Versamark on really helps, and you get a better result from that one. A happy huff. That's a nice description of it. Yes, if you only want some of the words, sometimes I'll want from a sentiment. Perhaps I'll want, I don't know, from this, perhaps for this one, the storm will end and the sun will shine again. I might just want sun will shine again, or the storm will end. So it's much easier to do it this way than try and mask the stamps and use ink pads, which I always find is a bit messy, and I always tend to get a little bit of a stamp showing as well, which is not really what I want. So I'm just clean the colour off those. And now I've Versamarked that. Let me just try that one again, because that wasn't very good. Let's try some different colours as well. So we'll have Thinking of You in red. And what we'll do is just go back over that before I huff as well, just to make sure I've got plenty on there. And I'll use blue again. There we go. I'm just going to go over that thinking to make sure there's plenty of ink on it. Being quite a big stamp, I should have used a slightly smaller stamp for showing you these sentiment ideas, but I thought I wanted ones you could actually see on the screen, so I thought I'll use big ones. There we go. So a happy huff again, like that. I shall remember that. Better. So you can see, just because I've Versamarked the stamp, it's improved taking up the ink there. So that's another way to do it, which is around sentiments. Now, have I done everything just about? Sort of. Yeah, so that covers two things. It covers the mixing the colours on the stamp and how to stamp bits of sentiment. Oh yeah, there was one final one I wanted to do. I've no idea what number we're up. You'll have to count, but there are 10 that'll go into the into the blog later on. My idea is to take some, oh, do you know, I've just done Memento. That was stupid. Just clean it all off again and use the right ink, because I'm going to be using pens to colour. Stays on. Use stays on when you're colouring. Oh, done it again. Forgot to take the top off. That's the thing that annoys me about stays on. I do that, get it up and think, why isn't it putting any ink on my stamp? And it's because I've left the cover on it every time. Ah, dear. Yeah, almonds. I think you are right. I think it is almonds. Right. Dog's up in the air and the person isn't steady, but that doesn't really matter. I just want to show you another thing you can do, which is, because they're all beautiful, you can do all sorts of patterns. So perhaps you want a dotty umbrella. I'm going to use that end for that. So perhaps I just want little dots all over the umbrella. I find the Stampin' Write markers are far more controllable than the thin end of the blends. And I find the thin end of the blends is actually quite thick as well. Whereas with this, you can get quite a nice sort of quiet, I don't know, bit with it. So we'll have alternate panels different. So we'll have this one as dotty blue as well. And then the other panel, let's have Pool Party to match. And with this one, we're going to have little dashy lines. Just doing this very roughly so you can get the idea. Just sort of fills in different ways, just to give you different patterns. So they're brilliant for playing around and doing patterns. And again, particularly nice in something like a flower. To do flower centres, which can be very awkward sometimes. Dotting with the Stampin' Write markers is a great way to do it. So different patterns on your brolly, which looks great. So do I always keep my ink pads upside down? No, I don't. I usually keep them the right way up, to be honest. Or I'm just throwing them on the desk here, which is why they're upside down. No, I keep them the right way up with the Stampin' Write thing on the top for the top ones, and the Memento I just leave like that on the desk. I do put them flat. I wouldn't put them on their sides or on their ends, for the same reason. These need to be kept flat. They can't go on the sides or the ends. So I think that's all the 10. Oh no, there is one more. Oh, so what I'm going to do is very quickly colour this this girl in again. Shall we? No, we'll have a different colour for her coat. She can actually have an orange coat now. Pumpkin pie coat. So I'm just going to colour her in, because I want to show you just one final thing with them, and it's possibly my favourite way to use these. I'd left the dog stuck on that block, which is why I've got a dog as well, but it won't matter for this. And we'll give her some jeans. She can have blue trousers now to match the brolly. The other thing with this is they don't sort of, the colours don't run into each other, which you can find with blends sometimes. So if I've coloured her like that, and I'm thinking, oh, it just needs something a bit more. I perhaps want a little bit of rain or something just dotted around the place. So it's going to cover the dog, but it doesn't matter. And this is what we call the splatter technique. It's very messy, so I would cover your desk as well. And you just want, again, the brush end for this, and you're just going to flick. I find it quite difficult to actually direct this particularly well, but it does work. There we go. Ooh, I've got ink on the outside of that lid, which isn't a good idea because that'll get on my fingers. But you can you see the splatter on there? I can get it close enough to the camera. You can see how it's just splattered, which I just find a brilliant way to just add a little bit more texture to what can be otherwise quite a boring background. And because they're very fine splatters, then it does mean that it doesn't really matter if it covers where you've coloured. or colours, you know, I could colour the dog, even though he's got a few splatters on him. I can still colour him and he would still be part of that picture. So let's have a look. Do I always keep my ink pads? Yes, I've answered that. Which colour stays on do you use? I would use black, but I've lost my black. So it must be around somewhere, but I've no idea where it is. Completely lost it. Anyway, I just happened to find I've got a stone grey one, which is why I've used that today. I've only used it because I completely lost my black stays on. It's under there. No. So I've no idea. I'm going to have to look where that is because, oh no, I can see where it is. I've just seen it. It's on my punch thing. There we go. So yes, I would normally use the stays on black, but I didn't. I used the grey. And if you're colouring, sometimes you want a lighter outline anyway. So I do find, of course, you can use the Stampin' Up stamp pads to colour in grey, to do an outline in grey and then colour, but you risk it, because it's water-based, you risk the colour sort of bleeding a little bit. So let me just show you the difference with, take the top off so I remember, with the black stays on. It's just a much darker colour. I'm just going to clean my stamp immediately. Oh, don't clean it before you stamped with it, you idiot. Right, get myself organised here. So just got yet another piece of card here. Try and get her standing up a little bit straighter. There we go. Still got the dog in a funny place, but let's not worry. And I'm going to just clean my stamp straight away because I haven't got my stays on cleaner out. I can clean it again with stays on cleaner in a bit. And you can see if you do it straight away, you can usually get the colour off. But if you leave it even a few minutes, you'll find it will stain your stamps. Doesn't damage your stamps in any way. Doesn't matter at all. But it sometimes feels better not to. So you can see that if you look at the dog, you can see the difference between the grey and the black. The black is just a bit sharper, a bit darker. But I don't think it, to be honest, I don't think it matters. It was just what I could grab at the time. But I'm glad I found it. Why I've got that there when I've got the others over there, I've no idea, but that's just typical. So that, I think, is all my 10. Has anybody been counting? I think it's 10. I think it's the 10 versions. So my writing isn't great, but if you've got half decent calligraphy type writing, then do have a play with the different ways of using those for playing. Splatter I love. It's one of my favourite effects. And you can't always see how much splatter you've put on until it's actually dried, and then you see that yes, you've covered the whole thing, and usually half your desk and half of me and goodness knows what else, but it does work well. And of course you can mix colours on that. So I'd use the blue there. I could equally splash it with the green, for example, so we get two different colours on it. So I'll just do a few little green splatters just to add to those. We're really getting splatters now. Which are great fun to do. As you can see there, I've got the two different coloured splatters. What fun is that? So there we go. Hopefully that's given you some ideas. I'm now disgracefully messy, which is no bad thing. Shows I've been playing a lot. Haven't made a card today, obviously, but any of these you could use to make cards and things. But I just wanted to let you know if you hadn't noticed, or remind you if you had and you were going to make use of it. But if you want to join and become a Stampin' Up demonstrator, remember, you need never buy anything else ever again if you don't want, but you can get 2 free packs, by which I mean 2 of these 10 pack sets. So it really is such a good offer, and I'd hate people to miss it. So even if you're not thinking ever of buying anything else, it might be worth getting a few things on your wish list that total £130. Including the basic black marker, which I think is £3.50. I must find mine. Can't remember where I put it, but it'll be around. As the stays on was. Everything's around. It's just I don't always remember where I put things. Yeah, and normally you can get, whenever the new colour families come out, so the in colours, you always get sets of those as well. They're always available. And we'll get a new set, obviously, this year when our current lovely colours, the deep colours from 2003 retire. We'll get there. You're just worried about being a demonstrator. You don't want to get tied into anything. I think that is one of the beauties of Stampin' Up. Let me just get me back, and then we can talk better. There we go. One of the beauties of Stampin' Up, because you need never, honestly, you need never buy anything else ever again. I do find a lot of my ladies from my classes will join in a good offer like this and get all the goodies and get all the benefits. Then if you don't buy anything else, you just stop being a demonstrator. You'll get all sorts of information, and yes, you will get emails about being a demonstrator and, you know, how to build a team and talk to your team leader about X, Y, and Z. My ladies don't want that. They just want to get the benefits. And then as soon as they drop, because if you don't keep up the minimums in a quarter, you will drop automatically. Then at the end of the following quarter, so this quarter is January to March, so at the end of June, you would drop. And then you could join with whatever the next lovely offer is. And there's usually one in the summer. So I have a lot of ladies that will join using the one. There's usually a very good one in May as well, often to do with the new in colours. So that's when you get the good joining offers. Celebration's always good. There's usually something in May. I can't promise because you don't know if it's going to happen year on year. But last May, there was a very, very good joining offer. And there's often one in September for the new mini catalogue that comes out then. So you can just join, let yourself drop, and then at the next offer, rejoin again. And there's nothing stopping you. A lot of people do that, and it's quite accepted. So like having to only use, yeah, no, you don't. No, you don't at all. There's a lot of people who don't. As long as you don't say, I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator and I always use Stampin' Up products. I do, because I am trying to have a business around Stampin' Up, but you don't have to at all. And making your own stuff, you can use whatever you want. I will often use some of the products, can't think of the word, products in cards I make for people that are one-off special cards that I'm not showing online or whatever. But yeah, you don't have to use. I use them because I just find them so good, because they all coordinate. You know, these covered with the ink pads, meet with the cardstock, so everything coordinates so well. That's why I would do it. So have a think about it. So yeah, twisting husband's arm again. Yeah, and you're going back to work. So hey, you need some sort of nice thing happening because you're going back to work. Why not? But yes, as I said, you never have to buy anything else again if you don't want to. You can just use it to build up a stash. A lot of my ladies will build up their stash using the £130 of products. I think the hardest thing about it is working out what adds up to 130. You cannot go over the 130. You can put in a product order that is slightly less, but you can't go over the 130. That's one of the rules about it, which is really annoying, because if you make an ordinary order and you go over whatever, then you can always just add it on and it can be whatever amount. But for the joining offer, you need to keep it for then. So sorry it's quite long, but I had a lot to show you today. Have a look at the blog when it comes out later on today. And thank you for joining me. Hopefully I'll see you all again next week. If there's any other questions, I'll stay on for a minute or two before stopping the stream, but I will let everybody else get back to their lives. You don't want to keep just looking at my face. So thank you for joining me. So does that answer the question, Emma Lou? Happy with that? Yeah. Do give me a ring. You can always catch me via carol@craftycarolscards.co.uk as an email, or my telephone number, which is on the website. You can always give me a ring if you prefer. Okay, see you again next week at